Nightwing 141, legacy number 328. Dan Waters writing with DENYS COWAN on the art. So, this is kind of the payoff to this whole, like, Nightwing show up at court for your court date and we'll decide if you're guilty of causing that car crash, that pile-up that led to several people's deaths. And this issue is very focused. It starts off outside the courthouse. The prosecutor's doing a speech to the press, talking about what the charges are and all that, and Dick's in the crowd and he's civvies listening to all this. And the first half of this issue is kind of an interesting little like focused just exploration of how the city views Nightwing. And it's not all like positive, or technically it's positive, but it's not all positive in a good way. Because the first guy who overhears talking about him is like, oh, Nightwing was beating this cop up, and which happened last issue, and he was being brutal. And I'm like, finally, he's learned that he needs to do this to like make change. And he talks about how years ago he saw Nightwing, and we get this flashback as the guy's talking to Nightwing in the disco Nightwing outfit from before the current.
Yeah, the almost it does. Yeah, it doesn't have the high collar, but it's the same vibe. It's like it's definitely the when Batman got his back broken era, like that mid 90s, the big gold Nightwing logo. He's got the long like mullet kind of.
Yeah,
so I can't tell here with the art because Cowan does the hair length. Like it's definitely long in the back. I don't know if it's business in the front and party in the back, but
yeah, but that was just par for the course at the time. But he was beating up this drug dealer who was selling drugs to kids on a roof, and he was very angry. It felt very aggressive, and also of the early 90s. But this guy who's telling the story is like, oh, I saw him drop him off the roof and I was so delighted, but I got disappointed because at the last second Nightwing like grappled his legs, so he saved him and thought he'd scared him straight. But that's not how Bloodhaven works. You have to do more than that, and finally he's doing the right thing. And it just goes to this panel of Nightwing just like rubbing his like his eyes, and it's just a perfect reaction to it.
Yep, this guy sucks. I also love that in there it's, you got to think this is this guy's retelling of what Nightwing was saying to the drug dealer, because it's very Frank Miller Batman more than it's anything from Nightwing, because he's telling the drug dealers like, look, I can throw you head first and it'll be over quick, right? Your body won't even know what has happened to your brain. It'll be like shutting off a switch. Or I can throw you feet first and it'll pulverize all the bones in your legs and you'll slowly bleed out. It'll be very aware of when you go. And it's like, I don't know if Dick's ever been this brutal, like even in the mid 90s, you know? So when we get to that page of him squeezing his face, like his eyes over his brow, just like this guy.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, no, I mean,
it was very, very welcomed.
It's a funny little moment, which is kind of interesting that they slipped that in because it's otherwise a very serious issue. And then obviously we get what's her face, Manhunter, Kate Spencer, showing up to basically say, hey, you shouldn't go in there, you should not go forward, but if you do, I'm the Justice League lawyer, I'm here to represent you, but I would really advise that you don't, because if you start getting tried for vigilante acts, that opens a bit of a can of worms for the entire Justice League and all the superheroes around the world, so let's not do that. And that leads into another character who sort of steps forward and tells this story, this young woman who talks about how when she lost her dad in the hospital some time ago, she went up to the roof, her dad was the only person she really had in her life, and she was thinking about jumping off, and Nightwing just like saw her and just stopped on the roof, talked to her, asked if she was okay, made small talk, sat with her, went and got her a drink, and stayed out there with her all night till sunrise to make sure that she wasn't jumping and that she was okay. And it was this act of kindness that made her feel seen. And obviously it's a much nicer story, a much sweeter story than what the guy was telling from before. But I do really appreciate that Kate, hears this as well. They're both listening to it. And she's like, do you even remember doing that? And he's like, yeah. Like, but if they're putting too much faith in me. So he's doubting himself, but I do like the question, do you remember that? And him saying, sure, of course I do. So,
well, and again, the way that Cowan draws her up on the ledge it reminded me of that famous panel that makes its way around from All-Star Superman
Sure.
of the lady that's getting ready to jump, and then Superman comes up and just offers to listen to her, and so again, this feels like it's paying homage to that, which I also like.
There's a nice symmetry as well of both stories being on a roof and someone being threatened or threatening to jump or be tossed off. Like there's kind of like, it's almost like two sides of the same coin in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. I also loved the prosecutor when she's saying, "Oh, Nightwing claims there was a witch." I love the air quotes. I love that he drew her with doing the air quotes. It's such a perfect touch.
Cowan.
Yeah.
Like, I've always liked Cowan's art, but here it's the subtle things. Because when I think of Cowan's art, I'm thinking of the really heavy inks and like the actiony stuff, like with the question. But here, everything is very still and it looks really good. Just like the way that the prosecutor looks at the watch, right? At the top of that page. And just the way that it's paced out. And then, like you said, the air quotes. It's all these little things that are going into the art that Cowan is doing so well. Yeah,
can I just say, I read this right after I read Superman Unlimited, and the whiplash of quality of like this just being so well paced and everything feeling like it was building to like, is he going to do it or not, was so riveting. And just the polar opposite of just the crossover slop that other book was.
Well, that's why I started my week with that Superman crossover, because it could only go up. Right? Because after the last two, I had a feeling. But yeah, man, I'm glad you're okay after that whiplash, because it could have done some damage.
It could have hurt. Yeah, I could have been bleeding out on the side of the pavement like this drug dealer that was getting tossed off. So Nightwing reaches for his mask out of his pocket. I'm like, I was actually wondering, wait, is he just going to walk up in his civvies but with just the mask on? Because that's going to look kind of weird. But as he's reaching for it, though, someone steps forward, a woman, and says, "There was someone else in the car. I'm coming forward as a witness. It was me." Nightwing's first guess that I was someone who was mentally unstable and claiming to be a witch is correct. It was me all along. And obviously the art here is very interesting because it shows you sort of Dick like looking shocked, but then sort of like standing behind her as she's saying all this stuff. And it's basically just this perfect get out of jail free card where she's like, basically, confessing to a crime, puts out her hands to be handcuffed, and says Nightwing is innocent. And like Kate's standing next to Nightwing with the eyes like, "This is a godsend. This is a win."
Also, when the witch steps forward, on the top of that panel, you see the freeway. So it's like a constant reminder.
Nice touch. Yeah, it's towering over them. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, and the prosecutor's like, "Well, this is if you're confessing,
fortuitous.
you'll be arrested," and she gets arrested. Miranda rights, all that, and Kate's like, "Hey, Mr. Grayson, this is the best we could have asked for. Right, this is all good. Why aren't you smiling at this?" And Dick's like, "Wait a minute. There's like one person who's not watching. There's one person who is walking the other way. There's something fishy about this." And I appreciated he immediately was acting this way, because I also felt there's something fishy about this. This felt too easy. So I'm glad that he immediately said, "This is too easy. Something's afoot."
Yeah. Something's not right here. Like, I could feel it in my bones. I don't know what it is, right? But this is, Because, and again, us reading this, there has been this vibe of the things that seem supernatural are kind of mundane, even by superhero standards, right? Like, the thing that they thought was that creature was an alien, right? But it was, it got lost and befuddled and all that other stuff. And it just seemed like all that supernatural stuff but I was like, yeah, but not like this. Like, this is, again, way too easy. So what's afoot? And then where we go to it again.
Yeah.
Dan Waters is so good at this.
Yeah, Nightwing just runs off to like follow this. What turns out to be a guy. I actually didn't realize it was a guy until we got into the house and saw his face better, because he has long hair, so it looked more like a woman for a while.
Yes. On that panel though, where Nightwing's running across the roof, and the guy with red hair or reddish hair is on the top right panel. It looked like almost an 80s hair metal guy, right?
Sure,
with the way that the hair is drawn. And so that's what I was like, okay. it could be a lady, but maybe it's a guy.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It doesn't
being a
really
guy.
matter, right? Like the fact that this person is obviously of interest because clearly they know something about this, what's going on, is you know, that's true regardless. So it doesn't really matter. And obviously, once you get there, it turns out once Nightwing busts in, disarms him because he pulls out a gun. Nightwing finds like hair dye and stuff in the bathroom, and he's like, "Look, you think I wouldn't like recognize that it was a different woman? I know that's not the witch. What's going on here?" And basically, it's like someone has come to them and paid her to pretend to be the witch to get Nightwing away with this, and they're basically being paid out. They've got a lot of debt, right? They're drowning in debt. You know, they've got like a kid, and she agreed to do this to get paid for it, and he's not happy about it, but she did. And all this is basically building to the mayor, right? Which we knew this was all building to. Like, we knew this was all the mayor wanted to build this highway. He wanted to do all this manipulation of the city to make it worse and all the rest of it. But yeah, because that's the thing. Like, when Nightwing's like questioning, like, was there any indication of who this was? The guy's like, "Oh, I know exactly who it was." They weren't like keeping it a secret. Like, they were quite know quick to tell me it's Mayor Bissoni. Like, it's him. So.
And he wants to give you a message.
Yeah.
You know, and that message is like he looks forward to Mayor Bissoni looks forward to continuing your fruitful relationship, protecting Bloodhaven together. He couldn't have done this without you. And you're just like, what? Which leads to this page where like we see kind of like the idea of the witch trials and being wrongly accused. And it's intercut with panels of Dick having a panic attack because he realized that like he's kind of not under this guy's thumb, but he's being played in such a way where he's put him in this corner, and it's like a slightly different threat than what we usually get. And of course, we also get the other reveal here towards the end as Dick is having a panic attack that he's fighting off, is that the actual witch has been found by the mayor. The mayor has the witch, and like, you know, like he's talking like, oh, he's in charge, and like, you know, I brought you here, you know, and all that. But it does kind of feel like the little smirk in her face at the end is like, oh, I don't know if the mayor is prepared or like has as much control here as he thinks he does. It feels like she might do something here to shake things up. I've seen enough horror movies where witches are at the center to know that mayor is boned. Like, it might not be in the next couple issues, but she ain't going to forget. Because she even tells him at the top of that page that, you know, all of you are the same, you men of Bloodhaven, and you thought you can contain me. And just the way that he talks down to her, and he's like, I can't have you out terrorizing my city, terrorizing its hero. You know, I was just like, oh, this is the first time we've really gotten the mayor. And he's already proven to be like this. You're like, oh man, what a piece. Like, this guy sucks. I can't wait for Nightwing to get the better of him.
It's so effective because this entire arc has been all these supernatural things, but it started, like the end of the last arc, teased that the mayor was going to be behind what we're doing. And we've obviously mentioned him in like building all this new stuff in the city, the highway and all that. But like, it's not focused on him. Like, we have been so much more focused on the effect of what this highway has caused in Bloodhaven and all these things that have spread to this. And this idea that the witch predicted correctly that Nightwing would feel. I mean, she didn't say you're going to have a panic attack, but she said, oh, you're going to feel things tighten. You're going to feel trapped and in a corner. You're going to feel all this blah blah. I was like, oh, this is all coming together beautifully. And I loved at the end of this arc is like not the showdown with the mayor. It's kind of the same as what he did with the Zani, which is the Zani wasn't one arc. It was like split into 3 arcs where it built to the Zani being the big showdown in the 3rd arc. And it kind of feels like we're doing something similar here with the mayor, where maybe it's not 3 arcs, maybe it's just 2. But this is kind of the end of the 1st arc, and then the arc where we're going to actually do all the mayor stuff now that we've been building to is now what we're about to go into, that we've properly set him up.
Which makes sense, because everything that I've read from Waters he uses that formula. You know, it was just like in I'm drawing a blank on the name of the book that I love so much, because it's been a long week. But the Batman book.
Oh, you mean Dark Patterns? Which
yes,
like
it came to me.
It's to a lesser extent in that though, because they weren't as connected. Like, they were very separate stories in that.
Right. They were until the last arc where he pulled all the threads together. Right?
Well, yeah, but that's different from this, is what I'm getting at, because this is like, no, the entire thing is about building to the next thing, and you can feel it the entire time. That wasn't Dark Patterns was like, hey, oh, these are secretly all silly connected. That's a little bit different than this.
Yeah. But I feel like that's how he tells these stories, where there's these little pieces that build to the big piece, and then when you get there, everything, you know, like you said, the Zani one, that was 3 smaller arcs that built to that big Zani confrontation there in the circus, the Cirque du Sin and all that stuff.
But
and here I feel like we have to take a break for Bad Seeds, which I'm sure will be fine.
Yeah,
right?
for 2
but it's kind of
issues.
killing the momentum for this.
Yeah, I wonder how Warner's is going to
going.
handle that, and how much it's going to feel like it's just, you know, part of the crossover, if it's still going to feel like an issue of Nightwing. I'm curious it's always interesting to see how writers handle that stuff. This issue is excellent because it feels so focused about analysing kind of Nightwing's place in Bloodhaven, and the idea that we've got this prosecutor who's not a bad, like, she's not a villain seemingly, she just is doing her job and thinks that Nightwing did something wrong, so she's going after him. And the mayor has manipulated things enough here with the deck that he's sort of been dealt. Well, he kind of dealt the cards to begin with, I suppose, but like this idea that he effectively has made Nightwing indebted to him. Not that Dick's actually going to feel like he does owe him or anything like that, but this idea that he's been played in such a way where, oh, the mayor now thinks he's saved me from this, and like as if he can control me, as if I am like one of his puppets to run this city with. You know, that way that like a mob boss says to you, oh, hey, we're friends until you say something I don't like, and then we're not friends anymore. And then maybe all of a sudden,
I'm going to come to you with a favor one day, and I'm going to expect you to honor that favor.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
It's that dangling carrot. So, but yeah.
I think that kind of turn towards the end is very good. It's a very satisfying conclusion to like this whole idea of them coming after him, because like I said, it felt easy in the moment, but obviously Dick reacted the same way as we did, so it didn't feel cheap. But the fact that it's like, no, it's easy because the mayor orchestrated this because he wants to maintain control. It does a couple things. One, it completely shifts the playing field for what we're actually fighting against now, which is a fun shake-up. But 2, the fact that he has the actual witch means that we're kind of anticipating her doing something now as well.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
She's there to get revenge on the men of Gotham that you know, put her up, and one of those type of people is the guy that's running things right now. Right? It's like the same story. Next chapter.
He's the exact person that she's wanting revenge against. Not just one off. He's like the 2026 version of the guy who was doing the witch trials, basically. Yeah. The way that Waters and Cowan are able to put us on the same journey as Nightwing, because when that lady popped up as the witch, I went, what? And it's the same type of reaction that Dick's having. And that is some masterful storytelling there. And then, because I was like, how much longer? I got to be almost at the end, right? And then we're still like halfway through the book. So the way that they pace that, where I was like, oh, there's still so much more here. Because that feels, to me, from reading comics as much as we do, the reveal of the witch coming out and saying, oh, no, I surrender. That feels like a very end of the book that could
thing.
And like another writer might have put that at the end of the issue, like had the whole issue build up to that, and then we'd all be going, "What? The witch just turned herself in?" But no, that's just the start of this. That's just getting us going.
Piece of the story, and it's all about this guy and what, you know, they have all these debts, and so what does he do? They go to the mayor for a favor, and like you said, like the mob boss, you know. But she has to turn herself in, and that's where the tragedy also hits too, because it's these people of Bloodhaven that are being affected by this. You know, she's not going to see her kid, which is one of the reasons why she did, you know, took the deal. So, because
apparently they promised that after everything dies down with the media, they'll like get her out. Like they'll come up with some reasons and like put her on parole or something just to get her through the system. Which maybe they'll, you know, live up to their word. Maybe they won't. Who's to say? But either way, the mayor's behind all this. So, Super interesting. Honestly, I am so impressed that I'm at a point where I'm like, this might be better than Taylor's run, and I love Taylor's run. Like Taylor's run was fantastic.
It's much more like Taylor did the character study stuff with Dick too, but that would still seem to be like a lot of superhero-y stuff. Whereas this, I feel like we're getting into the psychology of Dick Grayson and how he relates to Bloodhaven.
Well, they're just doing very different things, because Taylor's run was all about the heart and the feel-good vibes of it. And that's not to say there was never threat and there was never villains with bite. There was, but it had a very different vibe and tone. War's run has been all about kind of the horrors of Bloodhaven, and we've had the Zanny, we've had the witch stuff and the supernatural stuff, and now the corrupt kind of mayor who's like the evil guy at the top doing all this stuff. It's went for a more sort of sinister side of Bloodhaven, which is great for one, just because it's a cool thing to explore, but it's also great just because it's also very refreshing after Taylor's run, because it's so different to what Taylor was doing. It's like it would be good on its own merits, but the fact that it's like, oh, like it's not just trying to recreate what Taylor was doing was actually like a really smart thing to do. I just think it's interesting because I feel like before Taylor's run, I think other than Dixon's run right at the start of the proper solo Nightwing book, I don't really think there was any runs of Nightwing that were considered, or at least I considered, like to be that like Kyle Higgins' New 52 run. Nah, not really. Like
it was decent, but it was. I feel like Nightwing's always been feast or famine, and now we've had back-to-back creators. It's been more feast, right? And it's been consistent, which is real nice.
It's so funny to me that after that horrific little period of Rick Grayson, we've had two back-to-back, possibly best of all time Nightwing runs. The only other one really to rival them would be the Chuck Dixon run originally, which is very different, but obviously it's the original Nightwing run. It's got that era and it feels different because of that, and so they all stand. I think it's just incredibly lucky as Dick Grayson fans that we've been met with these back-to-back runs.
Yeah, but him being so central to DC, I think that's what draws these type of writers to him. Because you can tell all these kind of stories. You know, he's almost like Spider-Man in that way, right? Where you can do a bunch of stuff over at Marvel with Spider-Man because he can fit into all these different nooks that you can't necessarily do with.
Yeah, but I don't think, like, when Nightwing's not had good runs, it's because there's not writers interested in telling these stories. It's more just editorial and who's in charge and how much they're prioritizing or putting on the book. Like that's the real problem. The only thing I can compare this to, this must be like in the 2000s when people were really into Daredevil, when they went from like the Bendis run to the Brubaker run. This is what this must have felt like for them at the time.
Oh, that's. I hope that's where the similarities end, because it got really bad after Brubaker.
Sure. Yeah. Hey, this can't last forever. If we get
let's keep this going.
If we get a third great run after Waters is done, that would be some kind of miracle. But because even Batman doesn't tend to get 3 great runs in a row. Don't get me wrong, Batman's had a lot of good runs, obviously, because they get a lot of good talent on Batman. But there's usually a stinker every few runs at least.
Before Fraction, there was the Darsky. All right, and
exactly,
we got it good now.
All right, what are you giving Nightwing?
That's a 9.
Yeah. I'm almost at a 9.5. Pardon me. I'm just going to go with the 9 though, I think. Excellent. Like I said, reading that after Superman Unlimited was like a night and day. Holy shit, this has actually got pacing. This is actually a comic book that's building to something. God. It's not just, action slot.
That is so funny to me.